How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Prey. Prey from 2022. This is the fifth Predator movie, although it's a prequel, so technically it comes first. And this was released on Hulu streaming services. This was directed by Dan Trachtenberg and stars Amber Midthunder, Dane, DiLiegro, and Harlan, Blayne, Kytwayhat. Sorry if I mispronounced any of those names. And overall, this was a movie that I'd, seen a little bit about during its production, and there was a whole bunch of things we were hearing about it before we saw too much official. It was going to be called Skulls at one point. There was a rumor that they wanted to not tell anyone it was a Predator movie and let it be a surprise, which that would have been cool, but they didn't go for that. But you hear all this stuff, and to be honest, some things we heard early on had just cause for concern, and I think the studio may have felt that too, because they dumped it onto streaming services, which really does suck, because you could tell, this movie has good cinematography. It was made to be on the big screen, and sadly, this movie didn't get that. So yeah, this is definitely a case of a movie that really does feel dumped on streaming services. I really wish this was theatrical, because it turns out this panned out to be really good. I went in with kind of low expectations. I'm like, I don't know what it's gonna be like. I was really worried because it was dumped on streaming, but then you go in and you watch it, I'm like, wow, this is actually one of the better Predator movies. Obviously, the first is still the best, and people say that Predator 2 deserves a rewatch. A lot of people are saying that's underrated, but still, this is so much better than, The Predator. Oh, man. The Predator, it just turned into, dumb, stupid, hard-to-follow action with explosions everywhere. This movie, it remembers that the Predator should be horror, and that really gets me, It's horror with some sci-fi, but it's not really a big, dumb, over-the-top action movie, and it sheds that. And there, to be honest, so many franchises like the Predator really need to get this message, Go back to your horror roots. Looking at you, Terminator. But anyway, it's really a simple back-to-formula movie. One Predator versus a group of humans, and you really get the sense that the Predator has a severe advantage, and you're really rooting for the underpowered humans to take it down. It's got a lot of what made the first one good, but by changing the setting up, it really doesn't feel super derivative at all. Now, this movie does have faults, and we'll get into them in a minute, but overall, I'd have to say this is one of the better Predator movies, and I really did like the return to form. I love putting more horror back in this franchise, and it's also really nicely shot. Ashamed it never got its theatrical release. But anyway, without further ado, let's talk a little bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what this movie's about. We open up in the 1700s, and we meet a group of Native Americans. Our main character is this girl who wants to be a hunter, but no one believes in her, and she wants to go and prove herself. We meet the other people in the village. There's her brother in particular, and also his group of friends, which some of his friends do talk a little bit too modern, and one of the guys goes, "Hey, who invited you?" And it really just doesn't feel like this takes place in the 1700s with some of these lines of dialogue, but I guess they are translated, but whatever. She's there, and she also has a dog. Great way to make your main character more likable. Give her a dog. We instantly care way more about her. She's clearly a good person. She has a nice dog. Anyway, there's this thing you have to do, a certain ritual if you want to be a hunter, where you have to go out and you have to hunt something that's going to be a bigger, better challenge than most of your normal hunts. And the brother gets his friends together, and they're going to hunt a mountain lion, and she, of course, will sneak along and join them. And by the time they notice her, it's already too late. And they say, well, you know medicine, I guess you'll be useful. Go ahead and tag along. So they're out there looking for this mountain lion, but she, of course, starts to notice there's something else out here with us. She sees tracks, an animal on 2 legs. Even if this was a bear, why would a bear walk on its hind legs so long? And then they find a snake that was skinned. What animal would skin a snake? There's something else out here, and she, of course, has to prove herself. She has to defeat the predator to become a full-fledged hunter, beat the ritual. And she also, of course, has to protect the village as well. So we get the battle from there with a few interesting little twists in there as well. And I guess let's go ahead and start about the pros. And obviously, first and foremost, we're returning to one predator fighting a group of people and a classic uphill battle. You really feel the disadvantage of the humans against this futuristic space alien, and the fights all have weight behind them. Some of the later movies, again, going back to The Predator, you don't even really feel like you know what's going on. I mean, look at how the main bad guy died in The Predator. That was terrible, but here, all the fights are pretty well choreographed. You get the weight, you get the story in the fight scene, and you get the drama. And yeah, you always feel that oppressive force of the Predator. And the Predator here is cool as well. You see, this is 300 years in the past for humans, but it's also 300 years in the past for the Predator. He doesn't have all of his new and advanced tech, and in turn he has very much his own aesthetic. He's still way more advanced than the humans, but he's not the super sci-fi Predator we know as well. It gives him its own aesthetic, and it also shows that, yeah, this is back in time for both humans and for Predators. Now, that being said, I'm not the biggest fan of his mask. I think his mask just looks a little weird. I wish they made that look more like a regular Predator mask. But other than that, cool character. Also, cool character, our main girl is really likable and easy to follow. She has that whole plot arc. We've seen it before of, I've got to prove myself. And sadly, Hollywood has not been doing this trope really well lately, but this movie is more how the trope should be done. You get a sense of her struggle, you get a sense of her work trying to prove herself, and you get a sense of just how dangerous what she's going up against is, and this causes you to root for her and want her to win. This is how the trope should be done, and I know a lot of people are worried because other movies have come out recently where they don't do this trope super well, but here it really does work. You get behind the character and her struggle, and you really do feel for her and want her to win, and, you really do like her by the end of it. So yeah, lots of cool stuff here. It's Predator back to its horror roots, back to its small-scale fighting and serious heavy weight behind all of the action. Cool stuff. But that being said, we gotta talk about the cons, and I feel like the cons for this movie are nothing too particularly big, but there's a bunch of little stuff every now and then that will come up, and you'll be like, really, movie, come on? It's nothing too bad, it's just every now and then this movie will do something. For example, they show the main character trying to hunt a deer early on in the movie, and for whatever reason, she's trying to use a tomahawk to hunt the deer instead of a bow and arrow. And I'm like, that's not really what you would use. That's not a long-range weapon. But another thing, too, is when she doesn't kill the deer, she chases after it on foot. And I'm like, you're not going to catch the deer. Humans can't run that fast. So little things like that. Also, there's a subtitle really early on in the movie, and it says something like The Great Plains, September 17 something. They say the Great Plains and almost immediately show us shots of mountains. Plains means flat. Don't show us mountains. And the thing is, the subtitle didn't need to be there. It's already obvious that we're in the past. I don't know why it felt the need to do a subtitle, but when you say Great Plains and then show us mountains, that's just a little frustrating. Also, when the Predator first shows up, before he gets to fight the humans, he's fighting a bunch of animals, and it kind of feels like the Predator's just messing around in the beginning of this movie, and it's like, okay, the Predator fighting a bear, that makes sense. I could totally see the Predator wanting to go fight a bear, but then he'll hunt something like a snake, and I'm like, yeah, who's gonna win, the Predator or a snake, you know? So it just kind of feels like the Predator's just looking around hunting random stuff for the beginning of this movie. Wasn't the biggest fan of that. Also, in regards to animals, yeah, most of them are CG. It's good CG, but there's just something about it being too perfect where you know, like you're not gonna get a bear in frame that perfect and have it do exactly what you want. And it's not bad CG at all, but something in there you just know, and that takes away from it. Maybe every now and then it's something with the animation, like for example, there's one scene where an animal's chasing a rabbit, and the rabbit is running straight, and we all know that rabbits strafe side to side, but this one isn't because it's a CGI rabbit. Again, it doesn't look bad, but it's just something where you see these animals and you know. And like dog, the dog isn't CG most of the movie, and you can tell he's real, and I don't know what it is, but you can tell. Again, not bad, but you can tell. And also, you know, like, I really do want to compliment this movie and its fight scenes, but there is some scenes towards the end of the movie where you get to see the Predator a little bit too long and too clearly, and in turn, there's some fight scenes towards the end of the movie where instead of the Predator, it feels like a Batman fight scene, just because, you know, we can see him so much, and I know that's a weird little gripe, you know, and there is some things where it's like, yeah, they did the fight scenes good, at the same time they felt like a Batman fight scene. Oh, and another one, there's a bunch of crafting in this movie, which I really do like. They need something, and you're gonna see them build it with their bare hands, but these scenes also go way too fast, and it almost feels like they're building Legos in a commercial or something, you know? So yeah, I love to see them craft. At the same time, they're just way too quick about it, you know? So, yeah, like I said, a lot of the stuff in this movie, it's still mainly good, but I just can't help but find, like, little gripes with it. And I know a lot of this is ridiculous complaining, but it's just stuff that I have to mention. And overall, though, still a really great movie. It gripes over. Enough of that. But yeah, I went in with relatively low expectations, especially having seen that this was dumped. I'm like, oh, they probably dumped it on streaming because it was bad. I go in with low expectations. I watch the movie and I'm like, that was a good movie. That was probably the second or third best Predator movie. Like I said, I really need to rewatch Predator 2, but overall, a pleasant surprise, and I really was happy about that. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my 2022 playlist, where you can see me talk about movie and TVs from 2022. And actually, we've gotten a lot of new entries in big franchises this year. Scream, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, lots of cool stuff, and also the new X movie and Barbarian. There's a lot to like in 2022, shaping up to be a really good year. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. 2022 playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.